this is Alicia from Little Bits Clothing Company. You can find us on the web at www.littlettlebits.etsy.com. Today I want to talk just a little bit about the available stays on Etsy. And on Little Bits Clothing Company's website, you can get a variety of stays made. The different types that we have in our shop include leather stays, or you can have a pair custom made. Either I can make them or I can make the pattern for you and you can take them home and make them using the helpful guide that I've published. The pair that I am wearing right now are made out of linen and boned with reeds. They are quite comfy. In the 18th century, your stays really should be comfy. There's really no need to have a teeny tiny waist. The purpose of the 18th century is to have a reversed triangle effect. So as long as your top is larger than your bottom, you're good to go. A correct drafted pair of stays should be very comfy for the 18th century. It's not until later on where your corsets start to hurt. But in the 18th century, if your stays hurt, chances are they're not quite fitted right for you. So I want to talk about leather stays. Leather stays in the 18th century were the cheapest type of stay available. You could go to the local shop and pick one up fairly reasonable. Even charity children had them. Just like we go to the store to purchase our underwear, their underwear, as in the stays, were purchased at the shops as well. Unless you were really wealthy, then you could have your own stays made to your measurements. Regardless, any stay purchased at Little Bits Clothing Company will be made to your measurements to assure a comfortable, proper fit. We have original leather stays in the Colonial Williamsburg archives. They come in all shapes and sizes, from teeny tiny babies on up. Leather stays in the 18th century were for those who couldn't really afford much. If you're portraying a lower class woman, this is something you may want to think about. That is the front of the stay, and this is the back of the stay. This then is the stomacher of the stay that would go right in front, just like my stomacher is. I'm going to briefly put this on just so you can get an idea of how this would look. So this is how it would look, and then you would insert your stomacher. If you already have a pair of leather stays or are thinking about getting a pair, one thing you need to think about is care for your leather stays. At Little Bits Clothing Company, we make a historical leather conditioner. Your stays should be rubbed down at least once a year with conditioner. This will help protect and condition them. One thing you want to remember with your stays is you never want to store your stays flat. You always want your stays rolled. You want them rolled as if you were putting them on your body. So what I like to do is I like to take my stays, I like to lay them out, and then I like to roll them up. Just as if they were on my body. So this is our stay, this is how we're going to store them. Feel free to take your leather band or whatever you lace your stays up with and wrap it around. This will help keep the shape of your leather stays and will lead to use for years to come. For those of you who want to make your own stays but don't want to mess with the pattern, think about checking out the custom stay patterns that are available at Little Bits Clothing Company. I just need a few measurements from you, and I can create your own custom stay pattern so you can be assured a good fit. All you have to do is put them together. I've published a guide to sewing your own 18th century stays using your custom drafted pattern. With each custom stay pattern that goes out, this book will accompany it. It has a lot of great information and will help you get started on your 18th century stays. Not only will it show you what you need to assemble your stays, it also talks a little bit about the history of stays, as well as what type of stays and material were popular in the 18th century. It'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to finish your stays. It goes over some historical information that may be handy when assembling your stays. It also talks about where I tend to get my fabrics and supplies from. If you're like me, I'm more visual, so I need a lot of pictures rather than the instructions to help me out. And the best part is, if you ever get lost or have questions, I have included my information so you can contact me and we can work it out together. This is a fail-proof way of getting a great pair of stays made. Another thing I want to briefly touch on are busks. A busk is a hard piece that can either be made out of metal, bone, or wood. This piece is intended to go down the front of the stays. What this actually does is it takes the pressure off your stomach that the stay puts on. Once you insert this down, the pressure from the stay will then get put onto the busk and be taken off your stomach. This makes for wearing very comfortable stays. At Little Bits Clothing Company, we have different types of busks. This busk is actually concave on one side and convex on the other side. When you insert it correctly, this will help with a conical shape that was so sought after in the 18th century. Remember to pick up your stays at Little Bits on Etsy. Whether you want a stay pattern to make it yourself or you want your stays all made for you, Little Bits can help.